Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today I'm going to be talking about what the Denver Broncos offseason plan needs to be after losing to the Buffalo Bills in the wild card and being eliminated. Tough loss for the Broncos. Really unfortunate loss, but at the same time, it's kind of expected. 31-7, though. It was definitely expected that Buffalo would win by a lot. But it was still a tough loss, and Denver has to figure out how they can improve their team because they're a young team, and Denver got to snap a playoff streak of not being in the playoffs for 9 years, and I would think they want to keep that going, and we're going to talk about how they continue that, especially in a tough AFC conference. So we're going to go over the draft. We're going to go over free agency. I only have a couple free agents that I'm going to suggest that Denver should bring in. But I think mainly for this Denver team, the main part that I think Denver needs to do is that I'm going to get into is retaining some of their defensive players that are free agents and attacking in the draft is what I'm going to get into. All right, but I'm going to start off with the retaining some of the free agents. There's 5 free agents that I look at that Denver really needs to bring back. Start off with DJ Jones, a defensive tackle who was really good for this defense this year. Started all 17 games, had 3 passes defense, 1 fumble recovery, a sack, 42 tackles, and a tackle for loss, 3 QB hits. And so that's one guy that started. That's one guy, and he is going to be one of the top defensive tackles in the free agency class this year. Another one, a little bit more important for this defense, is Cody Barton, one of their outside linebackers. Cody Barton this year, 17 games, 14 starts, 2 interceptions, returned those 2 interceptions for 71 yards, 5 passes defense, 1 forced fumble recovery for a 52-yard touchdown, 1.5 sacks, 106 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. They cannot lose Cody Barton this year. They got to bring him back. Another really nice outside linebacker for this defense is Justin Sternad. Got to bring him back to this defense. 17 games, 8 starts, 3 passes defense, 3 sacks, 73 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 4 QB hits. So those are the 3 guys I look at, and I think you got to bring these guys back. Now, there are 2 other guys I think that really need to be brought back. They're not on the defense. Michael Burden, fullback, who had a really solid season with Denver, and then punter Riley Dixon. Those are my 5 guys that I think Denver needs to bring back. Now, let's get into the draft, and then I'll get into the 2 guys I think Denver needs to bring in this year. Starting off with the draft, in the first round, I'd love to see Denver draft Colston Loveland. So this is a guy from Michigan, tight end, 10 games this year, 56 receptions, 600 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. The most important thing is that he's a great blocker, and Denver needs to improve their run game. I'm going to get into that in just a minute about running back in the draft. And I'd love to see him selected number 19 to the Denver Broncos. Really need a tight end as well. All right, number 54 for the Denver Broncos. You need to add in a wide receiver. I don't think wide receiver is a huge need. You have Courtland Sutton, but I think you'd like to build a nice wide receiver too next to Courtland Sutton. I mean, do you have some solid guys like Vele? I think is solid. Really had a bad game today, though. Troy Franklin is a really good wide receiver, had some nice plays today, and he has a solid future. I think Marvin Mims has some great speed and made some really good plays at the end of this year for Denver. But I think you need to add in another guy, do that through the draft, and that's why I think draft Isaiah Bond from Texas, who in 14 games this year had 540 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, had 100 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Really good season, and he wasn't even fully healthy at the end of the year. And he had a lot of limited playing time at the end of the year for this Texas team. Then finally, at pick number, I believe it is 86 for this Broncos team, get a running back. Let Javonte Williams go. He's not worth re-signing. I don't know if you sign another running back in free agency, but draft who I think is one of the best running backs in this draft class right here. Outside of Hampton in North Carolina and outside of Ashton Genty, and there's about another running back or 2 that are going to go before this guy, but he's going to be really successful in the NFL if you ask me. Draft Cam Skattebo. I think it'd be great for Bo Nix for starters. I mean, not only is he a good runner, but he's a great receiving back, and he really showed it this year. 605 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. That'd be great for Bo. But also the fact that he's a great runner. 1,700 rushing yards this year with 21 rushing touchdowns. I think if you're Denver with the need of the run game, you need to go out there and go get a guy like Cam Scadaboo in the 3rd round. And then I want to get to the 2 guys I think Denver needs to sign that are not currently on their team. So the 2 free agency additions. I'm going to start off with a quarterback, and it's Jameis Winston. I know you have Bo Nix, but Jarrett Stidham's a free agent, and that's your backup. He's probably gone. I don't think Jarrett Stidham's coming back to Denver. Jameis Winston makes sense to me. For starters, he's a great locker room guy. He can be great for the locker room. Also, there's a connection with Sean Payton, Jameis Winston being in New Orleans. That's one thing, for sure. But also, I mean, he's a good quality backup this year. Started 7 games, went 2 and his team did go 2-5, but he threw 13 passing touchdowns in those 7 starts. Did throw 12 picks, but threw almost 2,200 yards in those 7 starts. So I really think that he would be a good fit to be the backup of the Denver Broncos. And if you want, you can decide if you want to re-sign Zach Wilson to be the 3rd emergency quarterback. We'll see if he would re-sign there or not. I don't know. I don't know if Zach would re-sign with the Broncos. Zach Wilson looked pretty good in the preseason for the Broncos last year. Has looked solid with Sean Payton. There might be teams that are asking Zach Wilson to be their backup. Maybe Denver wants Zach Wilson to be their backup. I don't know. Maybe there is no need to sign Jameis Winston and Zach Wilson just becomes the backup. But I think Jameis Winston, there's definitely a possibility there since the connection with Payton, and also there's a great locker room guy. And I don't know. I feel like I just don't feel like Denver would go to Wilson as the backup quarterback, but who knows? All right, and the other free agency signing I have is a pass rusher, and I think this would be a great addition for this already so good Broncos defense, and it's DeMarcus Lawrence, 4-time Pro Bowler. DeMarcus Lawrence definitely didn't have a great season this year because he got injured. I mean, played the first 4 games with this Cowboys defense, and then got hurt in week 4. Played 4 games, and in those 4 games had 1 forced fumble. He had 3 sacks, 14 tackles, and 4 tackles for loss, and had 5 QB hits. That's pretty good for only 4 games. 17 games as a Pro Bowler last year with the Cowboys. He had 6 passes defense, 1 forced fumble. He had 4 sacks, 50 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 8 QB hits. 2022, 17 games, 17 starts, 3 passes defense, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, returned for 19 yards and a touchdown, 6 sacks, 65 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 13 QB hits. 2021, he was great in 7 games, 1 interception, returned for a 40-yard touchdown, 5 passes defense, 2 forced fumbles, 3 sacks. So we've seen another former Cowboy defensive lineman go over to Denver and have success. We've seen it before. We might see it again. I definitely think there's a solid chance DeMarcus Lawrence ends up in Denver. I'd love to see that. And that would really recap for this Broncos offseason. I think you attack offensively in the draft. I think that's the way to do it. Getting a tight end, getting a running back, getting an extra wide receiver, and then in free agency you retain your defensive guys that are your big defensive guys that are free agents, and then with other free agents, go get a backup quarterback, and other defensive guys, go get DeMarcus Lawrence. Let me know your thoughts on my offseason plan for the Denver Broncos. That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.